Signs that expose a married man even when he looks perfect. Carl Jung. Have you ever met someone who seemed too perfect, attentive, romantic, always available at the right times, but never completely present? Maybe he has that intense look that makes you feel unique in the world. Maybe the conversations flow as if you were soulmates. But there is something unsaid, hanging in the air, an almost imperceptible hesitation that you can't name. Your unconscious picks up signals that your conscious mind prefers to ignore. That weird feeling you had and dismissed as insecurity, that detail that didn't fit but you missed it. Your body knows when something is wrong, even if you try to rationalize. What's hidden between the lines of a relationship that seems perfect? What are the invisible signs that your unconscious has already detected, but you have not yet had the courage to admit? Today you will discover the truth about the patterns that reveal a committed man, even when everything seems impeccable. Get ready. This journey can completely transform the way you see relationships. 1. The mystery of perfect times. There is a pattern so precise that it looks choreographed. He always appears on the same days, at the same times, as if following an invisible script. Messages arrive punctually during business hours. Calls happen on the way to work or during lunch breaks. After 6 in the afternoon, absolute silence. Weekends, just quick, almost strategic messages. This punctuality reveals something profound about the human psyche. When we live a double life, the unconscious needs to create rigid structures to not allow the two worlds to collide. It is as if there were a hermetic mental compartment where each reality occupies its specific time. The conscious mind may even believe that it is in control, but it is the unconscious that organizes this temporal division with surgical precision. You realize that there has never been a genuine surprise, no unexpected call at 9 o'clock at night just to say that he missed it, no spontaneous invitation to see themselves outside the established pattern. Everything works like a Swiss watch, and this predictability should sound an alarm, not an organization. What happens is a fragmentation of the personality. During the day, he can project his anima onto you, that idealized image of the feminine that every man carries internally. You become the emotional outlet, the space where he can be who he can't be at home. But when the clock strikes a certain time, the mask needs to return to its place. Pay attention to the holidays. Do they disappear completely, or do they only appear at specific times? Our Christmas, New Year's, his birthday, always surrounded by elaborate excuses. These moments reveal where the gravitational center of his life is. The truth is not in the romantic words he says, but in his absence when the whole world is celebrating. Your unconscious has already noticed this pattern. That anxiety you feel when the clock approaches the cutoff time is not your insecurity. It is your body reading the signs that your rational mind insists on justifying. 2. The shadow on social networks. His digital life is a desert. No recent photos, no status updates, no spontaneous sharing. He exists on social networks as a ghost, a minimal presence that leaves no trace. When you suggest tagging him in some publication, that excuse about privacy arises, about not liking exposure. This is not just personal preference. It is active shadow management. In depth psychology, the shadow represents everything we hide from ourselves and others. When someone is experiencing duplicity, social networks become the most dangerous territory because there the evidence is permanent and visible. Notice how they react when you post something. Is there a subtle nervousness? Does he ask you not to mark the place where they are? Suggest that you avoid photos together? These are not just quirks, they are unconscious protection strategies. His mind knows that a single piece of digital evidence can crumble the entire carefully constructed structure. The absence of a past also tells a story. Do you scroll through his feed and find practically nothing from the last few years? Are old photos gone? This may indicate a purposeful cleansing, an erasure of evidence of another life that you are not supposed to know about. It's as if he's created an edited version of himself, a digital persona that doesn't match the full reality. But the most telling thing happens when you realize that he never, under any circumstances, interacts publicly with you. He doesn't like your photos, she doesn't comment on your publications. There is no digital record that you know each other. You've become an algorithmic secret, someone who needs to remain invisible in his parallel universe. This invisibility doesn't just protect his privacy, it protects the fragmented psychic structure that he needs to maintain. Each public interaction would be like letting the two personalities meet, and this would generate a collapse of the defense system that his unconscious has painstakingly built. If you want to understand the hidden signs that expose a married man, even when he looks perfect on the outside, watch the JUNG method. The link is pinned in the first comment. 3. The projection of the anima and impossible love. You became the woman of his dreams overnight. He says that he has never met anyone like this, that you understand your soul in a way that no one else can. The connection is so intense that it feels magical, almost supernatural. But there is something strange about this perfection. It happened too quickly. What you are experiencing is a pure projection of his anima. Every man carries within himself an image of the ideal feminine, built since childhood through relationships with his mother, emotional experiences, unfulfilled desires. When this image is projected onto someone, the intensity is overwhelming because it is not you they are seeing, but their very soul reflected. The problem with this dynamic is that it is based precisely on impossibility. The more unattainable you are, the more perfect the projection remains. If you could be together for real, in ordinary daily life, in the banal routine, the idealized image would dissolve. He would have to deal with you as a real person, not as a depository of your unconscious contents. That's why committed men can maintain this intensity for so long. The distance, the restrictions, the sporadic encounters work as the perfect frame to keep the fantasy alive. He doesn't need to confront the reality of who you really are, because the relationship exists on an idealized plane, protected from the trivialities that wear out real relationships. Do you notice that conversations always revolve around deep feelings, spiritual connections, soulmates? But when he tries to talk about the concrete future, about real plans, does he deviate into the philosophical field? This is because the projection of the anima does not survive the test of reality. It needs to remain in the realm of infinite possibilities. The tragedy of this dynamic is that you start to shape your behavior to keep projection active. He avoids showing his flaws, hides his vulnerabilities, always tries to be that idealized version he projects. But this is not real love. It is a psychic theater where both play roles that his unconscious has written, and the more you try to be perfect, the more you trap yourself in this fantasy that can never come true. 4. The stories that never complete. You know where he works, but you've never seen the place. He knows he has a family, but the details are always vague. He mentions friends, events, everyday situations, but everything seems edited, as if essential pieces of the narrative were missing. Every story has a hole, a part that just doesn't connect with the rest. This is because telling a consistent lie requires exhaustive mental work. The unconscious cannot fabricate complete parallel realities without leaving gaps. When someone needs to hide a significant part of life, stories naturally become incomplete. It is not that he is lying about everything, but he is omitting so much that the truths told lose coherence. Pay attention to how he reacts when you ask simple questions about his day. Is there a hesitation? Does he need to think before answering things that should be automatic? This reveals the mental effort of editing the narrative in real time, removing references to the other life you shouldn't know about. The names also tell stories. Does he talk about people close to him, but never use full names? Or does it use only generic nicknames? This protects against accidental slips. If he mentions too much of a specific name, it may reveal connections that compromise the edited version of his life that you know. Another sign is in the confusing chronology. Do you try to put together a timeline of his life and nothing fits right? The years don't match. The experiences seem to overlap in an impossible way. When someone is constructing a false narrative, the brain can't keep all the details organized perfectly. Small inconsistencies begin to appear. The truth is, you're only getting the authorized version of his life, like an edited documentary where they cut all the scenes that would reveal the real story. And your unconscious knows it. That feeling that something doesn't fit, that there are missing pieces in the puzzle, is not paranoia. It is your instinct reading between the lines of what is not being said. 5. The future that never comes. Conversations about tomorrow are always hazy. He speaks of possibilities, of dreams, of when things are resolved. But these things never have a name, they never have a deadline, they never have a concrete form. The future exists only as an abstract concept, never as a real plane. This reveals a profound psychological truth. Those who cannot offer a future speak of it philosophically. The language becomes purposely vague, because to commit to dates, to concrete actions, to specific steps, would be to create expectations that he knows he cannot fulfill. So the future becomes poetry, not a project. Have you tried to make plans for 3 months from now? Have you noticed how he doesn't talk, how he makes excuses about not knowing his agenda, about many variables at play? This happens because he is managing 2 calendars mentally. And in his actual calendar, you don't occupy the spaces that you would like to occupy. The human psyche needs a future to invest emotionally in a healthy way. Relationships that live only in the eternal present generate a peculiar anxiety, a sense of floating aimlessly. Do you feel that? That anguish of not knowing where you are going, of living one day at a time without being able to glimpse a horizon. He may even make occasional promises, to say that things will change, that soon they will be together for real, that it is only a matter of time. But note, do these promises have a deadline? Do you have stages? Or are they just words to calm your anxiety in the moment with no real commitment behind it? His unconscious knows the truth, even if the conscious mind can rationalize. And this truth leaks through the impossibility of building a future. You can be important to him. You can fulfill real emotional needs, but you are confined to the present. And a relationship that doesn't grow toward the future is actually dying in slow motion. But death is so gradual that you don't realize it until you've wasted years waiting for a tomorrow that was never real. 6. Disproportionate intensity and psychic compensation. His passion is so overwhelming that it is frightening. He says he's never felt that before, that you've changed his life completely, that he thinks about you every second. The statements are cinematic. The emotional intensity seems like the stuff of romance. But there is something disturbing about this disproportion. When someone lives a fragmented life, the unconscious seeks compensation. If there is repression, monotony, or emotional emptiness in one area of life, the psyche tries to balance by creating exaggerated intensity in another. This passion doesn't necessarily reflect who you are, but what is missing in his life. You have become the repository of everything he cannot express or live elsewhere. All the pent-up emotional energy, all the unfulfilled desires, all the parts of the personality that need to be hidden in his daily life find an outlet through you. That is why the intensity seems disproportionate to the time they have known each other or the reality of the relationship. Notice how he acts when you're together. Is there almost a despair in the way he lives that moment, like you're trying to suck years of experience into a few hours? This urgency reveals that he knows, even unconsciously, that your time is borrowed, stolen from another reality where he needs to return. Psychic compensation also manifests itself in extreme idealization. He can't see your flaws. He doesn't accept criticism about you. He overreacts to any threat to the perfect image he has built. That's because you're not a real person to his unconscious, but a symbol of everything he's lost or never had. The danger of this dynamic is to be addictive. Intensity becomes the drug that keeps both of them imprisoned. You come to believe that this overwhelming passion is true love, when in reality it is just the compensation of a psychic imbalance. And the more addicted to this intensity you become, the harder it becomes to see that healthy relationships don't need this desperate urgency. They build depth into the calmness, the security, the predictability that you have learned to despise, because you can now only feel through the emotional chaos it offers. 7. The forbidden territories. There are places where he can never go with you, entire neighborhoods that are vetoed, restaurants that are out of the question, social events that you can never attend together. He always has an explanation. He knows a lot of people there, prefers more discreet places, likes privacy. But the truth is that you live on an edited map, where large areas are marked as a no-go zone. This reveals the geography of duplicity. He needs to keep the two lives in separate territories to prevent them from colliding. Every physical space carries the risk of encountering someone who knows the other version of it, someone who would ask inconvenient questions or simply be confused to see it with you. Have you noticed that the places where you meet are always strategically chosen? Too far to be casual, too discreet to attract attention, too generic to create memorable memories? This is not romance. It is logistics of a clandestine operation. The human psyche absorbs these patterns, even when we try to rationalize them. Do you feel that discomfort when you're in public? That feeling of doing something wrong, even though he says it's okay? It is his unconscious picking up his energy, the subliminal fear of being discovered that he never admits but that leaks through body language. He also avoids introducing you to any significant others in his life. Close friends, co-workers, family members are all out of reach. You exist in a social vacuum, knowing only the isolated version of it, never the man inserted in the web of relationships that form a real life. This social isolation is not protection of your relationship. It is protection from the lie that he needs to sustain. Every person who knows the two of you together is a potential witness, someone who can contradict the narrative he has built. So you remain hidden, not because your love is too special to share, but because exposing it would destroy the illusion that keeps his other life functioning. 8. The silence that speaks louder. There are issues that are simply not discussed. Questions that, when asked, generate a strange silence, a deviation of the gaze, an abrupt change of subject. You've learned over time which topics you should avoid so as not to create tension. But this self-censorship should be a deafening alarm. Silence is the most honest language of the unconscious. When someone can't talk about certain areas of life, it's not because they're irrelevant, but because they're precisely the most important. That which cannot be said carries more truth than all that is spoken. Can you ask direct questions about his home life without receiving evasive answers? Does he share real details about his nights, about weekends, about vacations? Or does everything become abstraction, generalization, change of focus? The absence of concreteness in the answers reveals what is being protected. There is also strategic silence, moments when he simply disappears without explanation, then comes back acting as if nothing had happened. You learned not to charge these absences because when you do, his reaction is disproportionate. So you've become accustomed to living with the black holes of silence, treating them as normal. But perhaps the most telling silence is the one you impose on yourself. Do you tell your friends about it? Do you share real details of your relationship with your family, or do you keep it all a semi-conscious secret because deep down you know that if you verbalize the situation to other people, the truth will be too obvious to ignore? This pact of silence that you have created does not protect the relationship, protects denial. Every unasked question, every undemanded answer, every unquestioned absence is a brick in the wall that you yourself are building around your own perception. And when that wall finally crumbles, you'll realize you've always known. The silence was screaming the truth all along. You just chose not to listen because listening would mean having to act. And to act would mean to lose the illusion that, as painful as it is, still seems better than facing the solitude of truth. 9. The body that reveals what the mouth hides. There is a tension in his body that you feel but cannot name. When they are together in public, he always seems alert, like an animal that senses danger. The slightly contracted shoulders, the gaze that sweeps the room, the way he instinctively moves away when someone approaches. This state of constant vigilance tells a story that his words deny. The body does not lie in the same way as the conscious mind. He carries the truth in every gesture, in every automatic reaction, in every micro-expression that escapes control. When someone is experiencing a duplicity, the nervous system remains in a state of alert because it unconsciously knows that at any moment it can be discovered. Notice his touch. Is there genuine freedom in the way he touches you in public, or is there always a hesitation, a restraint, as if there is an invisible line that he cannot cross? In private it can be intense, but when there is a possibility of being seen, its body retracts. It's not shyness, it's instinctive self-preservation. Breathing also reveals secrets. Do you notice how it breathes differently when the phone rings? How is there a subtle change in breathing rhythm when you are in a place where you can meet acquaintances? The body goes into low-stress mode, an activation of the sympathetic nervous system that prepares for flight or fight. It may not even realize it consciously, but the body knows it's in dangerous territory. Pay attention to moments of sudden physical disconnection. Are you close, relaxed, and suddenly he walks away as if he had been shocked? This reaction happens when his unconscious detects some risk, some trigger that activates the protection mechanism. It can be a specific sound, someone who has passed, a mental association they have made with the other life. There is also the language of the eyes. Does he hold his gaze when they talk about the future, or does he quickly deviate? Prolonged eye contact requires genuine presence. And when someone cannot be completely present because they are torn between two realities, the eyes betray first. Do you see that momentary emptiness, that second when he seems to be somewhere else completely? The most revealing happens in moments that should be of deep intimacy. Even in physical proximity, do you feel an invisible wall? A part of it that never surrenders completely, that remains guarded, inaccessible. This is no ordinary emotional coldness. It is psychic fragmentation manifested in the body. He literally cannot be whole with you because a significant part of him needs to remain in the next life. And your body feels that absence, even when it's physically present. That feeling of loneliness you experience, even though you're in his arms, is not imagination. It's your body's response to the truth that it can't completely hide.